guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account, and ever since a couple years ago that we introduced dimensional heroes to AFK Arena, of course, with the groundbreaking King Arthur, they have absolutely been a requirement with some of the best in slot teams. Now, me personally, I love the story of King Arthur Excalibur. The whole hero, when they released the dimensionals, were absolutely pivotal. But let's hop over and check out the guide on which dimensionals we are using today within AFK Arena and what are going to be the most effective and how to build them. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here we do have the guide. Now this is the June 2025 from Rockaday and Arkman, still absolutely just crushing the guides out there. I will put a link down below, and a lot of these heroes are free to play. Some of these you are going to have to use the garrison, because if you did not pick them originally in AFK Arena, it is the only way to pick them up as it is today. So the first one we see, which is Robin Hood. Now he is one relatively a little bit of a newer one, but overall you can see relative strength in here is bad. Even looking at the build with a plus 30 signature item being average, the 9 of 9 furniture being average, and then of course the engraving and the plus 40 being bad and very bad. Not a hero you really want to focus on, and unfortunately, without right now having a dimensional tower, there's not really a reason to buy them or use them, because there's not anywhere that they're going to be used, which is kind of unfortunate. You can get them out of the shop. But when it comes to a lot of these heroes, and again, these are the primary ones that you really want to focus on, there's not going to be much utility within Robin itself. I don't even know anywhere, even with outside of the regular meta formations, that he is still being used. Then it brings in Shuna. Now we know this was an absolute epic crossover with Remaru and Shuna. Overall, you can see Shuna is absolutely top tier. Looking at the plus 20, plus 30 signature item, absolutely pivotal with how well this hero does. Grants a 55% attack buff, which is just extremely powerful, especially very, very broken. 9 of 9 furniture. You start getting into that very good range again. This cleanses some of the debuffs that we currently have out there, and also heals allies, which again is very strong. Gives the sorcery blessing stacks, which again, super strong, combined with the E30 that we do have in there with the healing, keeping everyone alive. It is imperative within AFK Arena. Then we look at the plus 30 and the plus 60 when it comes to engraving. Again, another thing that is very good at a 30, good at a 60, so not really the best in slot, top tier priority to get to that 60, but overall, when you get it there, it does give us some additional insight, which can really make a difference when it comes to the PvP aspect. Then we get into Remaru. Now, even though Remaru is a mage, still provides a lot of support within here. And you'll also notice that plus 20 is good, plus 30 signature item is bad. Not a ton of utility. Reduces the healing received by enemies by Black Flame. Again, not really having the effect that we wanted to see within AFK Arena. 3 of 9 furniture, 9 of 9 furniture. I feel like these are important for the simple fact that they're relatively easy to build. The only thing that we have is Poe coins are going to be constant when they're coming in and building up the furniture. And overall, it's just going to be a matter of time until you do get the furniture built up for these heroes. I'm just putting them in that wish list. Now, looking at the plus 30 engraving, this is the top tier. This is very straightforward. Gives an extra 30 physical pierce and magical pierce to named allies, which is just broken. When you remember, 1 point of physical pierce or magical pierce is 1% more damage. 30 points, 30 damage, which is kind of crazy. Even looking at the 60, it shows here that it's bad. Shares some of the defensive stats, but again, not really going to see a lot of utility. And if you've watched the anime, absolutely important when it comes to the Great Sage ability. It was just absolutely epic. Unfortunately, again, that did not translate into AFK Arena. Then we get into Sheltier. Sheltier still at a good rating in here. Now, of course, absolutely epic when it comes to PvP. Very hard to kill within there. Has a lot of resilience. Does some pretty decent damage. Overall, again, a lot of utility in the game mode. Plus 20 works very, very good. Plus 30 is average. Now, the 9 of 9, very good. The plus 60, very good. Even getting her to that 20960 would put her pretty much in all of the very good stats. Now, of course, 9 of 9 in here is a must, because that is a part dealing 25% more damage to single enemies in range, and also gives the crowd control. Now, when it comes to PvP, when you're looking at regular PvP or the treasure scramble, it is imperative that you have the crowd control. That is what locks everything down. The time reverse is the bread and butter when it comes to this hero. Being able to take fatal damage, then avoid it, or evade it, then become invincible. Again, super, super strong within there. Then we get into our most current crossover, which is Lios and Marcio. Both of these coming in at very good. So if you're a player, unfortunately, that did not pick up Lios or Marcio, unfortunately, you're missing them out. And as of right now, you are not going to be able to pick them up within the garrison. Once a hero is released within AFK Arena, it is usually about 5 to 6 months before you see them into the garrison to have availability. So again, if you didn't buy them, if you didn't go free to play and get the resources for them, unfortunately, you will not be able to see them for months. And we don't know in a couple months exactly where they're going to fall within the meta, but you'll notice the plus 20 here is top tier. The plus 30 is very good. Now, I covered in my AFK Arena shorts yesterday, Lios and Marcio over the last 2 days, and absolutely this goes hand in hand. Even looking at the basic, the 3 of 9 and the 9 of 9 furniture, both of them coming in bad, because when you look at the ability to buff up attack and defense, Lios doesn't really do any damage or doesn't really have a reason for this. Again, isn't a damage dealer, doesn't really make a big difference, not used a lot in PvP. Pretty much meaningless when it comes to the furniture itself. Now, the engraving, an entire different story, because when you have a plus 30 engraving, that adds grief in there, which is awesome. Reducing the enemy haste, physical resistance, magical resistance, meaning that your team is going to be able to do a lot more power, which makes him, again, kind of a buffer support hero within AFK Arena, or debuffer at that point. Then the 60, also good for the Analyze debuff. Stacking how the increase of the damage by 10% instead of the 8%. So you do get a little bit more damage, and it can stack up to 6 times, which takes you to 40 from 48 to 60%, which is huge. Really good to have, but not a huge necessity. But you can see in here, very good with the 40. Now the 40 allows the trust effect to stack to 15 times instead of the 10 times, or excuse me, 7 times that we've seen before. Great upgrade, but very costly. When you look at a plus 40 signature item, it is very, very expensive to build the heroes up because we do not get many of these epic chests that we're seeing. And then, of course, one of the best in slots is Mercile. Now, Mercile is a damage dealer. When you start looking at the plus 30, very good. 9 of 9 top tier, plus 60, very good. Plus 40 signature item, very good. She is one that does require a much higher investment, but with the much higher investment, you are going to get the damage that she needs to put out. When we start looking at the Cursed Realm, the Nightmare Corridor, even looking in the Treasure Scramble, there are places in there that she is absolutely best in slot in the primary damage dealer and a very stat-hungry damage dealer. That's why even again, when we did our build out with our short, building her furniture even higher than the 9 of 9 can make a big difference, because you are going to be boosting and continuing to boost up the stats. Now, when we start looking at like a plus 40, increasing the magical pierce from 24 to 60 magical pierce at max stats is kind of crazy, because that could be upwards of a 60% increase to damage on there. We know with the mark, and then looking at the 9 of 9 gives her a 50% attack buff to Marcio. Super broken when it comes to the damage, because that is a massive magical pierce that she is gaining, as well as that attack buff. Then when you look at the furniture, improving the debuffs with the familiars that she can summon, but also being to rewrite and use black magic marks 3 times makes a big difference. She works really good with Lios. Now these two, and I love when they do this, guys, is putting 2 heroes that are from the exact same crossover together and then giving them unison to work together, which I like. Gives a longer uptime on some of her abilities and really making Marcio shine even brighter when she is paired with Lios. Now you notice in here, one of the ones that were not included was Rem. Rem is another one where a lot of players that have Rem and have utilized Rem still does an incredible amount of damage within formations. She is one that I actually do rely on and do like within a bunch of different places in AFK Arena. Still, again, very strong when it comes to damage dealers. And if you don't have all of the Awakened heroes, if you don't have the Draconic heroes, Rem is still going to be a place where going to do a lot of damage in formation. Problem that we always had with her was the survivability aspect. And as we kind of get additional heroes, this combat rating, unfortunately, is going to be very high subject to power creep, which is the reason why we're not seeing a lot of places where she is still being used. But overall, still use her every now in campaign formations, tower formations, just for the simple fact that she is well built and she does throw out a considerable amount of damage if you can keep her alive. And if you don't have all of those heroes built, again, she is imperative. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.